Morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Let's see here. I see we have Doug on.
Yes.
Welcome. I'm Deborah Kopatowski, by the way. I'm the Recovery Alliance coordinator.
Greetings.
Greetings to you as well. Thank you so much for making time to be on today.
You're welcome.
Who else do we have?
This is Stephanie Johnson and Debbie Monty with Clay County.
Awesome. Clay County. Thank goodness. We're thrilled to have you on here too. And who else did you say was with you, Stephanie?
I'm the health director, and then Debbie Monty, who is our Health and Human Services director.
Awesome. Welcome. There's Tom. He's on mute right now. Beverly, hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well.
Good morning, this is Kay.
Hey, Kay.
Hey, honey.
We got quite
Hey,
a
Beverly.
Hi.
got a few people on here already. Were you guys able to download the attachments?
Yes.
Awesome. That'll be helpful. And I will recommend everybody mute your mic until you get ready to speak, just to cut down on background noise.
I talked to Pastor Eric Reese this morning, and he's going to try to get on from Graham County.
Okay, good. Give everybody a few minutes.
Yeah,
This
we're
is
early.
Shelley Foreman. I'm on by phone.
And who was that again?
Shelley Foreman with Via Health.
Awesome, Shelley. I'm so glad you were able to join us.
Thank you for the invite. I know I missed your last meeting, and I was so I'll try to catch up.
Wonderful. Well, this is our first focus group meeting, and we're thrilled to have you, everyone who's making time on a busy Monday morning, to join us. And the sole purpose, which we will be going over, is to put our heads together for this summit we have coming up August 16th. Patty, is that Patty Tibbery?
It is.
Hi, Patty. Welcome. This is Deborah.
Thanks, Deborah.
We're giving everybody a few more minutes. It's just now 11 o'clock. We know that Sheriff Christopher should be with us, and Chief Hollingshead, as well as a few others.
Will Tom be with us?
Tom is on here.
Oh, good. Oh, hey, Tom.
His, there he is.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning to all.
To those of you who've just joined, once again, I'll introduce myself. This is the first time we've had a focus group meeting simply as a conference call / Zoom meeting. Normally, we try to do this meeting in person. It was just going to be so difficult to try to get all of us together. This saves time, this saves money. Hopefully this will work equally as well until we can meet in August. I'm Deborah Kopatowski, and I'm the Recovery Alliance coordinator. If everybody will mute their mics until they're talking, please. We're getting some serious feedback.
Oh.
Let's see here.
Is that a test?
That's better. That's better.
I think somebody entered another dimension.
Yeah, that's that other planet.
Let's
They're
see.
going to help us.
Hang on here.
Hey, Christy Wyatt.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
There she is. I see Anita is here. Who else?
Is Anita on? Yeah, good.
Yes, I see her on here.
Good, good.
Greg Christopher's on.
Oh, there he is.
Good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning, sir. I hope everyone's well today.
We are. Good Monday morning with the sun.
Yes, absolutely.
I hope you had a good vacation last week.
Yes, ma'am, I did. Thank you. Sometimes it's tough to come back, especially on Monday morning.
Uh-huh.
Isn't that the truth? If we could just skip Monday when we came back, right?
That's right. Yes, Tuesday would be a whole lot better. I may try that sometime.
It still seems like Monday, though.
Oh, yes.
Need a day off to get over your vacation.
Yes, sir. That is for sure.
Good morning. This is Harry Bond in Hayesville.
Hey, Harry.
Oh, good. There's Harry. Hey.
Hi, Harry. Thank you so much for that email.
Deborah, are those your dogs?
Yes, unfortunately, I'm trying to mute my mic.
Your
They're
dog
always
has an
part of our
opinion.
call.
I apologize. They don't like the postman delivering mail, unfortunately.
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought this was about a drug problem, not a dog problem.
No, it's a dog problem.
Yeah, now we have two problems. Okay, well, we are.
All right, I think we may have got the wild animals under control, at least for the time being here. Sorry about that. All right, let's see, who all do we have on? We've got Tom. I saw Mariel popped in. We have Kay, Christy Wyatt, Miss Anita. We have Shelley Foreman, Harry Bond, Sheriff Christopher. Who am I missing?
Ricky Hill Hinton.
Ricky, so glad you could join us. I haven't seen you since that Western Regional.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Ricky, Tom Edwards, thank you so much for the introduction to Eric Money. That's been just wonderful for us.
Well, glad to hear that.
I'm Bob Scott. I'm on.
Awesome. Thank you, Bob. We're glad you could join us.
I'm Eric Reese.
Oh, there's Eric. Hey.
Hey.
Awesome. This is great. And I ask everybody to mute your mics, and I will too when I'm not speaking, so that we don't have wild dogs barking in the background and other various noises. Again, I want to introduce myself. I'm Deborah Kopatowski. I am the Recovery Alliance Coordinator, and I want to thank all of you for taking time on a very, very busy Monday to help us pull together exactly who and what we need happening in this summit we've got coming up. So we've done a little bit of a roll call, which is awesome. Let's see here. We're muting our mics until we're speaking, which is helpful. And if we can, if possible, write down any questions you have as we start to go through this list. If most of you have printed off or at least looked over the agenda, we've got a lot to cover, and I want to make sure we get to the end of it and have plenty of time for questions and most importantly, answers. So please write down any questions you have, and then we want to go over those after we get through most of this meeting. Let's see here. I think at this point, it's about, 6 after? I think it's safe for us to go ahead and move ahead. I want to introduce you to Tom Edwards. That most of you, he may be a new face to you, a new voice if you're just on by phone. He is the founder and board chairman of Recovery Alliance, and he's going to get us started today. Did we lose you, Tom?
Uh-oh.
He's got it.
Generally helps to unmute the mic.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a second about Recovery Alliance. what we are and what we're not. We're not an organization trying to take over anything or do. All we need is one more organization to go in the mix. Our primary purpose is to support the good work that's already going on in our state and community. And by that, I mean the individuals and organizations that are already doing good work. How can we come in and support that good work? That's pretty much what our intentions are and have been from the beginning. And the way we do that are with summits. As you know, we had the one in the West. We have 6 regions, and we have 3 primary ways that we work. One is our state summit, which many of you has attended. Another is our regional summit. Like I say, we have 6 of them, and another is pods. And the pods are where they really do come into more of a, how does it spill out in your community, the work we're doing. So that's really what we need. Now for the 7 county summit, it come out of the Western Summit. Kay McConnell asked us to look into maybe supporting and being a part of that. So we're glad to do it. Our intention here is to determine the needs of the community, which you guys already know. I have no idea. And that's the other thing is important to know about us. We're not parachuting into Western Carolina to try to tell anybody how to do anything because we don't know. We don't even know how to take care of our own backyard, really, but we work every day to try to get better at it. So what again, if we can come in and bring whatever we've learned from the summits of the past, and we've had quite a few, not only the ones in our state, but we've had several that were in other states where we brought national people together, and the resources that are needed, and you know that, and a lot of it, what I think can be very beneficial for us is, and I think Deborah or Mary will want to talk about it, is to draw from the work groups we've already had in different summits. And there's been a lot of hard work done by other work groups that have in fact produced some outcomes that I think we can work with. So that's it for me as far as Recovery Alliance and the intention, and anything I can do to support the work that we're about to embark on 7 county, I'm all in.
Okay, it's kind of a good overview there. And one of the things we want to mention is, if there's anything we've learned from the very first summit that was down in Florida, is that there's lots of opinions and there's a lot of things we can disagree on, but there's a whole lot we can agree on. And that's what we want to come together. We want to really kind of set our differences aside. What we want is to make a difference as far as communities and the issues, the struggle with substance use disorders. It not only affects the individual, obviously, but the family, their friends, the whole community. And it's expensive. It's expensive as far as lives goes, and it's expensive as far as funds go. And so we know that there's answers out there, and we know there's no one single group that's going to find that answer. It's going to take all of us working together and committing to work together and acknowledging what each of us brings to the table, which is what Recovery Alliance is all about. Tom has traveled the United States and several places in the world, and he's seen so many brilliant people come together and wondered, what happens if we pull all these different, collegiate recovery, law enforcement, DAs, judicial systems, educators, put them all in one room, what would happen? And sometimes, like I said, there's some disagreements to be had, but the key focus is, and it's why we're all here today, is because we care and we want to improve our communities. And so I know a lot of you have probably gone to a lot of different conferences and summits. The way we are different is that what we do is we come into the community and have you, and you may see some of the attachments that were sent to you. Not only there was a list of, there was the agenda, there was a list of leaders and with the different sectors listed beside us, so you could fill in people in that area. We'll go over that more in a few minutes. But there was also a list of top 3 topics. As Tom said, we don't know what's going on exactly in your community. We suspect it's similar to what we found in other communities, but we want to know specifically from you what it is we need to help address and what it is we need to bring resources in for. And the way we go about that is we come up with these topics, like we're asking you to share with us your thoughts on that. And we assign table topics. And we put 6 or 8 people per table. And Ricky has been to one of our summits before. Kay's been to a couple. And there's probably a couple other people. And I know Sheriff Christopher certainly has. And Bill Hollingshead, when he gets on here, has. And we, as a group, work together. And hopefully we have multiple sectors at that table, meaning we'll have maybe 1 or 2 people from law enforcement, a couple of educators, people working in prevention, some advocacy groups, possibly, hopefully, some clergy members there. We all work together as a unit to try to come up with answers for that specific table topic. Let's say maybe it is prevention. How do we go about that in this community? What does that look like in this community? What are the resources we have available? What are we missing? And who do we need to get in contact with to make that happen? So after determining these needs and setting up these table topics, we bring these leaders together, as we said, to sit around the table to try to work on an active project. We have something called a planner page that will be at each table that you list, okay, this is what we're going to work on. And it may be a short-term one. It may only take 2-3 months to do, or it may be a longer, maybe 6 months, a year, maybe 2 to 3 years, depending on how complex the issue is. But you set that timeline, and you've got leaders at that table that have a vested interest in seeing that this comes to fruition. And either they or someone they know can help assist with this project. This is what we try to help manifest, and we've had some great successes with this in the past. So we create these leaders. We'll have like a facilitator and a scribe at each table. The facilitator just kind of leads it. Sheriff Christopher's been a great facilitator in the past. Christy has been a great facilitator. Kay's been an excellent one. We just help guide the group through it. And it'll have a step-by-step process where you create the different steps it's going to take to make this happen. And we'll go over this more in a future focus group call, but right now we just kind of want to hit on the subject of it so you'll understand how this differs from other conferences you may have been to. We collaborate on the action plans. We set timelines, and we have measurables. Where can we see where we're having successes? Where can we look at it and say, oh, we're struggling here. What do we need to do to analyze this problem and get past it? And that's why you have this variety of different leaders at the table. That's how you come about with a consensus of solving that problem. Let's see what else. And then here's the important thing. Once these projects are completed, we bring this back into the community through pods, as Tom mentioned before. Again, we'll explain that a little bit more in a few minutes. We share it on our website so other communities can learn from this. And it may be communities right here in our state, or it could be somebody in Texas who's interested in doing exactly what you're doing. And then it's reported out at our state summit. And we had some great report outs here with the Western region. Our Western Regional that we had at Lake Junaluska, November 9th of this last year, was the largest regional summit we have ever had. And that's because the people in Western North Carolina are passionate about coming together, working together, and finding these solutions. And I get chills when I think about it because it was an incredible experience to be a part of that. And like we said, out of that came the 7-county summit that we're trying to work on here. With these shared results, as we said, not only does it help your community and bring it right back down to your community, but you're sharing, bragging as it were, to other communities. Look what we did. Look how we found funds. Look how we found these resources. You can do it too. And it's an incredible network to behold. By the way, the website we're talking about is recoveryall.org. So if you want to get on there after we get off the call and check it out, you'll see some of the other work groups that is, if you haven't already. You'll see some of the other work groups and projects that are taking place. And be sure and check out the Western Regional, because they're doing some great things there. All right, well, let's get on to, I think we got Mariel on the call. Mariel is Tom's assistant. Tom's real job is with Pavilion, and Mariel helps him with that, but then we also rob her to help us out. She volunteers to help out here with Recovery Alliance. Mariel, you on?
I am.
Awesome. I thought maybe you'd go over some of the deliverables that came out of the Western Regional, which just happened just back in November.
Well, what the biggest thing I would say, and I'll talk because he's on this call, and Ricky, I needed to touch bases with you anyway. An example of one of the best things that's ever happened with the summits is that from the very first summit in Florida, one of the immediately identified needs in every community, it was across the board, every sector, every community said, what we need is a resource guide that tells us what's there and what's not there in terms of, serving the people who are struggling with this disease and their families and their communities. There's guides out there, but here's, this guide only covers one segment, or this other guide only looks at MAT resources, or this guide only looks at abstinence-based resources. And we were looking, what seemed to be missing was a guide that covered the entire spectrum and the entire continuum of care. And we really did struggle with it because it's not an easy thing to put together. But summit after summit, one table, two tables, sometimes three tables would come together and say, this is what we need. And we need to have a way of knowing that these resources are good. And we need a way to vet them. We need a way to get people who have resources that, they might not be as visible outside of the community. We need a way where we were challenged with, a resource that is good in Raleigh may not be, or is good in a rural area. This is one of Ricky Hinn's things, that a resource that's really good in a rural area may not be as good in an urban area. There's different needs. There's different criteria for what is a good resource. If you're in an area that doesn't have as many resources, maybe something is better than nothing. But if you're in an area where you have lots of resources, that good enough isn't good enough because there's so many much better available. At the Western Regional, I ended up sitting down at a table with Ricky, and he had connected with NC State's GIS program, Global Information Services, where they do mapping of resources. And he had worked with them to create a local guide that helped address a lot of the challenges that he was having. He introduced us to the head of that program, who has now committed to giving us a graduate student to work on creating a true resource guide that is incredibly dynamic, addresses almost every concern that's been brought up at any summit table. It's something that in no way, shape, or form could we have ever afforded to do, except that now we have the technology of this major university behind us and the brain power of their graduate students. The first stage has already been rolled out. We finished the first part, and this map is amazing. What's happening with the directory is that not only are we able to look at what resources exist, we're able to look at what resources don't exist. We're able to do heat mapping, looking at where there are gaps. We know anecdotally that there's a lack of sober living for women. But now we're going to be able to use this directory in its future iterations to not just say, we know there's not enough resources for women. We'll be able to show it visually to stakeholders, to legislators, to government agencies, to funding sources, and say, it's not something that we quote unquote know, it's something that we can show you is missing. So Ricky coming together, we never would have known about the GIS program and what they can do for us if it hadn't been for sitting at a table with Ricky, who had already addressed this at a local level. And a lot of the challenges that they solved for him are challenges that a lot of rural communities are facing. That their resources are there, but they might be a little hidden, or they're not there and we need to identify that they're not there. So one major thing that came out of Western was, in fact, connecting on a state level with this, and then being able to turn around and look at the local level to implement the directory that works for a community, not that works at the national level, not that works at the state level, but that works at the national, the state, and the local community. So I'm kind of proud of it, in case you can't tell, so I'll shut up.
No, please don't shut up. That's exactly what we want. And so by bringing this to this community, which Tom is going to go over here in a minute, that's one of the critical pieces that we think would make for a good topic is to work specifically within this community and expand and expound on what's already been created. Tom, did you want to pick up from there? Oh, well, let me just mention this. There were two other great things, one of which, as we already mentioned, was the 7 County Summit that we're working on currently. Also, we had another group that came out and created answers to the most frequently asked questions by providers, questions by first responders, questions by parents, loved ones, business people. They came up with a broad list, answered those, did the research to answer all of this. It is located in our resource directory now, but it also was handed out individually to local hospitals, emergency rooms, clergy, police officers, the whole gamut, counselors and all. So that was one group that completed their project already. So it was a shorter term one. I think it took them about 6 months to pull that one together. And I believe Kay and her group are working on a similar project for her community. And so those are the smaller ones, while the resource directory is one that probably will be ongoing for who knows how long, simply because we're constantly going to be updating it, expanding it to meet the needs of all the communities that we come to work with. The key is to create solutions that we can bring back to our communities. Makes no sense to the room and listen and talk about a lot of things if we don't actually come up with some solutions that are going to help our specific communities. That's what our goal is. Tom, did you want to go ahead and move on with the next thing about projects to consider for this community?
Sure. And I know I mentioned it earlier, but and all summits inform the next summit. That's the way it's designed. Is anything that we do at one summit, if it's a work group, use that and pay it forward. How do we take what happens today and make the next group, make it easier for them? And I forget, but Mariel or Deb, one of you, which project was Steve Millett a part of? Do y'all remember?
Gosh. Hang on. Let me think on that a minute and I'll get back to you on it.
Okay, it's okay. Because I was trying to remember. I know I talked to him over the weekend. He's out in Denver, Colorado, but he came in for our state summit, and I know they are about to complete theirs, if my memory serves me. But the ones that we have right now, or some to consider, that we, or for you guys to consider, it's up to you what we do. But of course, Deb and Mariel both have already talked about the directory, the resource directory. One I would really like to see you consider would be this. Since we've already built this, well, they're building it now, but we already have it. If we could populate and I'd like to talk to Ricky about this, how we work with him. I don't know what it would look like, but if we could populate the 7 counties, start there in populating the resource directory. So that's one thing I'd like for you to consider. And then another, and this is kind of like the 7 county. It came up from something I did about a year ago, which I'm pretty sure Sheriff Christopher was there. I know Chief Holland said was, but it was a pre-arrest diversion summit in Raleigh. But as a result of that, as it always happens, 2 or 3 things came by. And so we are now going to host, we being Recovery Alliance, a pre-arrest diversion summit. But in conversations, I think it's going to be much larger than that. So that's another thing to consider if it's appropriate for your region, if it's something that's needed. And then drug court expansion, that's something else that's been a big part of what we've been working with certain individuals and counties around. A big one for me, and honestly, and I'm almost ashamed to say it, up until 2 years ago, I wasn't even aware of the prevention. And I mean, obviously I'm aware of prevention, but not as, there's been a lot of work in prevention, education, the school systems. And, I just think that's such an important part. I think my mother used to say an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. So
that's right.
So anyway, those are some of the topics that we already have. And we can share everything that's been a table topic and then beyond that. So it's up to you guys what we do. We're coming into your territory to support whatever you want to do.
All right,
Can I ask a question? This is Shelley. You sort of, when you talked about the directory, you went from map to what kind of directory? When you talk about a directory, I will say this. One, who would be the focus and target for the directory as far as who would be the end user you have in mind? Many of our agencies and organizations have a lot of information that our staff are utilizing and sharing. But one of the things we found in the past is directories sometimes, they get developed, they don't get utilized, they don't get updated, and they sort of fall by the wayside. So I would be assuming you'd be talking about some kind of electronic directory, and then what would you think of as who is the target and how it would be updated?
Okay, it's actually built into the Recovery Alliance system on how it would be updated and maintained, which is utilizing the community experts. Everything is sort of the center to circumference. The people who know the local resources and work in these pods would be reviewing the data, making sure that resources that are identified and maintained for their area. And so in doing that, it helps maintain the whole. There's automatic algorithms built into it that resources that are maintained by the individual organizations are automatically sent updated requests to update, and if they're not updated, they're removed so that old resources don't stay on it. But again, even those removals would be looked at by the local pod or the region, and then possibly again at the state. They're building in the whole vetting system right now. It is electronic. It doesn't require, however, that the resource have an electronic presence. That's one of the things that we learned from Ricky. What were some of the other questions? I know you said part of the problem is that there are a lot of directories out there. The end and they have a very specific, so they're built just for DHS to use, or just for Medicare recipients to use, or they're otherwise limited. In our case, the end user are all the sectors, and all the sectors are not only represented, but they're involved in the process of building and maintaining it. So the idea is that resources that one sector knows about, they are sharing with everybody in the other sectors instead of just internally. This is a very dynamic directory that's being built. It's searchable, it's filterable, and I didn't mention that the future of it, we have the GIS program at NC State University is committed to working with us, not in the short term, but in the long term. They're even talking 5 or 6 years as we continue to make this more and more sophisticated, more and more automated in its processes, its vetting, and in its maintenance. But also that eventually this tool will be able to help us do some actual outcome studies so that more than just a directory, it becomes a data collection to the point of hopefully we're going to be able to identify what is a good resource for a 20-year-old high school dropout versus what is a good resource for, a 50-year-old physician who's suffering from SUD. It's going to not just give you resources, but give you the best resources based on the data that you input. And continually, it will collect that data and refine the process and refine the results that you get. So it's a staggering piece of thing that they're putting together for us. It is unlike anything actually that I've seen anywhere else. I can't even find an exact replica of it to share with you.
Hey, Meryl, this is Rick.
Mm-hmm.
A suggestion, because of another program I work on, when they build this, have them put in what they call a filter. And what will happen is when a person edits their program or resource, that will be the trigger. And 1 year out, if it has not been edited or updated, automatically puts it to a standby mode, takes it out of the system so it's not visible, sends an email to the owner of that program and says, please update your profile.
Yep.
That way, that'll help keep everything current.
That's actually built in already on the laundry list.
Hey, Gab?
And
Yes.
I think because of you, Ricky, actually.
Yes.
Oh, I was just wondering, before time gets away from us, can we talk about our preferences for the day and topics that we would like to have covered? And I know we've got all the different counties on here.
Well,
and
yes.
collaboration with
I
the
don't
7
think you
counties.
do. I don't think you have all 7 counties?
We have a number of them on here, and Kay, we have a little bit of time that we can go over that. I want people that, after explaining this to everybody, we would like for people, if they haven't already done so, to list their 3 topics, and we're going to go into that in more detail. Not that we can't start at the discussion today, but we're going to go into more detail on that at our next focus group meeting. But absolutely, we can start that. Let's just wrap up a couple things here. So that is exactly, if you all looked at the things that were attached to the email, one was a list of individuals that that should be in this room to do what we're doing, if everybody has got a better idea of what it is we're going to be doing. Again, it's not a one and done, as Tom likes to say. It begins in this room. This is where we lay out the formula, as it were, for creating this dynamic program that we want, whatever the topic be. And it's going to be detailed. As I said, we're going to go over that planning page a little more in our next meeting as well too, so you can get a real concept of that. It really simplifies things for you. It's just a step-by-step process to success, essentially. But the key is having those good leaders there. By the way, this is a closed group meeting we're having in August. That does not mean we're elitists at all. That is not what this is about. This is about bringing in the true leaders who are willing to commit to the work that's going to need to take place. And it's about limited space and limited budget. So we want to make sure we get the creme de la creme in there. And from each and every sector, the people who really have the passion to get in here, stick with this, and commit to helping to get this work done. So don't share your emails necessarily. If you've got somebody, I know Kay did a lot of this when we were getting ready for our Western Regional. Send me an email and say, Deb, I just thought of somebody else that needs to be there. Here's their name, here's their email. They're from this county and they're from this sector. And so we can get again, we want a broad spectrum from all the counties. We want to try to get in a representative from as many of the sectors as we possibly can, so we can address this issue on all fronts. Now, on the sheet, if you decide to use the sheets we provided, be sure and put your name and phone number at the top in case for some reason, if you handwrite it and take a quick snapshot and send it to me by email or text even, you can text it to the number that's on all my emails there. If I have a question, because if your writing's anything like mine, I might not be able to read everything. I'll be able to get hold of you to ask the question. Or if I have a question about the person you're recommending, I want to know more about them so I know how to address them when I send them the invitation. If it's too complicated to either scan or take a snapshot of that to send back to us with your list of leaders that you think should be in the meeting, just email them back. Just type it in an email. But if you would, please be sure to give the name, their email address, the sector that they represent. And Muriel, can you put up that screenshot of sectors and counties and put the county they're from, so we can make sure. And maybe let's just say we've got somebody, a clergy member from Clay County, but we don't have somebody from Graham to represent clergy. That clergy member from Clay County may be able to tell us the name of somebody else in another county that we could invite that would be willing to come and help us work with this. Can those of you who are on computer, can you see the list of sectors and counties there? And by the way, keeping in mind, we are recording this, and we're going to send this video out to every single person on our focus group list, even those who were unable to attend today. So you'll have the list of sectors here: law enforcement, first responders, judicial, probation, DAs, government, clergy, leaders in recovery community, recovery high schools, collegiate recovery community, recovery advocates, professional monitoring, employee assistance, treatment providers, and then of course your 7 counties here on the right. So if you do that, like I said, you can always email that to me as well too. I give as much of that information as possible. Somebody want to say something?
This is Shelley again. I would just like to ask, I see government. Tell me what you feel is included in government. Who are the people under government you are going to be engaging?
Well, anyone in government that is working.
City and county.
Pardon me?
Right.
City and county government.
Okay.
Yes.
Does that include public health? Does that include DSS? Does that include
Yes.
like HUD and housing?
Absolutely. All of the above. Absolutely.
If they are part of the solution to this problem we have with addiction and recovery, they need to be a part of this.
Can I just make a statement about the fact that you all have agreed to help us, those of us who are hanging out here on the end of the state, west of Asheville, that are needing help. And we have 7 different counties with 7 different philosophies and things going on. And so we're hoping that, we can learn from each other, that, and law enforcement in this county is doing this, and schools in this county are doing this. And, we can learn from each other and share and pull together and do things much better with 7 counties than we can with just one trying to, put all our efforts together.
Exactly, Kay. And again, I want to mention that we are going to, this is going to be at least a year long, if not, this is the start of a lot of good things going on for at least a year, if not more, and we hope more. And we're going to break this down into 2 and 3 county pods as well too, so that we can get right down into those individual communities to meet their specific needs the way they need them met. Because we understand everyone, again, is unique. Your needs are unique. How we go about that's unique. That is one thing we have learned in this process. And we want to learn from you as much as we want to support you. And the only way we can is by learning from you. So let's open this up now further to questions. Who else has a good question for us? Shelley, I appreciate yours. They're very good. Does anybody have any questions about the process itself? Okay, Mariel's actually got the planning page up for us if you want to scroll through that. Mariel, you want to kind of hit the topics on that so they can get an idea?
Well, I put that up there just as an idea of sort of how we do the process of topics, and sometimes it helps if you know what the process looks like, and that helps you refine the topic. The idea is that it's not rocket science. We look for goals that are achievable. This is the first template for what would happen at the table. I think at this moment is that I left a statement that was from an earlier summit, about some of the topics not being as well defined. I think that's possible that this might happen a little bit here because this is the first meeting of this group. So the goal really is, and the challenge is that the table needs to come up with an achievable, measurable goal within the wide range of possibilities. An example might be, reducing stigma is an achievable goal, but how do you define that? And then what action steps do you take to get there? We had one group at a state summit who that was their goal. We want to reduce stigma. Ooh, that sounds so big. So they took it to a bite-sized piece. We're going to create a one-page pamphlet of talking points, and each one of us at this table is going to go talk to 3 primary care physicians. And we're going to talk to them about ways that we know are effective in talking to people who might have a substance use disorder, and help them. And they took it off of some other pieces that they found from other programs around the country, and that's what they did. And their measurable, achievable goal was they had 10 people going to 3 primary care physicians apiece. So that's 30 primary care physicians who got a message directly from people from the summit. That's a small goal. It's achievable. But then the next step is how do we turn this into a template so that instead of reaching just 30 physicians, we reach every physician in the county. How we reach every physician in the region, every physician in the state, and you just keep exploding it and using what works as a template for the future. So this really just puts together, what is it that you want to do? What does it look like if you've succeeded in your project? One of the key pieces is remembering, and here I have, you have your action items. What needs to be done? Who's going to do it? What are some dates? What are some timelines? How do we make sure that it's progressing properly? So by what date will this action be done? What financial, human, political, other resources are needed in order to do this, and what are available? What are some of the potential challenges in getting this done? And lastly, what individuals and organizations do we need to communicate with in order to achieve this goal, this action item? When we do this, we've learned that it's very possible, in fact, it's incredibly likely that people who need to be involved in your project aren't actually sitting at your table. They might be somewhere else in the room. They might not be at the summit at all, but they still should be involved. They still might be the person who's the linchpin to really making this piece of change happen. And so one of the most important pieces of the project planner is who's not sitting at this table but needs to be involved, who's going to contact them and invite them into the process. And that way, again, because we do have limited space at the summits, we're not limited by the space of the summits in terms of moving these projects forward. We can involve 100 people if that's what's necessary to make the change happen. We like to, and this one is based on the state summit, so I'm just going to leave it here. But often tables find that they're crossing topics with other tables, and so if you know that there's a table that's working on pre-arrest diversion programs, do you have something that you've come across in your discussion that you want to offer them? What is something that maybe they could help you with? Is it possible that a messaging group has an educational piece that would be useful to you to have? Is it something that Sheriff Christopher might know that you don't? And this is a place to document that you need to ask him. And then lastly, before we leave the room, it's always important that in order for these projects to succeed and move forward, that we plan the next step. Here's our plan, here's our first step, and most importantly, here's when we're meeting next. So we always leave these summits with a calendar of Zoom meetings where the next meeting is already set for this group. They're ready to go, and they'll be able to already have this process hitting the ground and running instead of starting at some vague date. So that's really kind of the simple way that we work through getting these projects moving.
Mariel, that is terrific. And I can't emphasize enough about that next meeting date. And it needs to be, we have learned also through experience, it needs to be maximum 4 weeks out, and highly recommend 2 weeks out from the date that you meet the first time. Because it's like, once you get on a roll with that and you stay consistent, and that doesn't mean everybody's going to make every meeting. But again, we always try to record these calls for you. Mariel's kind enough to make it a YouTube video that we can send you the link and you can view it, take notes. People who weren't on the call can stay up to speed, and it's making things happen because we're all busy and we can't always be available for every meeting. And that's why the Zoom meetings are so great, because you can actually see things like Mariel's showing here. For those of you who are on the phone, when you get the link, you can click on the link and you can see the documents she's talking about, because it'll show you the whole video of our discussion today. It's the next best thing to being in person, and it's a lot cheaper and takes up a lot less of our time, especially as far as travel goes. And speaking of setting a date, I want to set one out 2 weeks from today, and I believe that would be either the 8th or the 9th. Now, as a group, would you give me some feedback on, is Monday the best time, or would Tuesday be better for you guys? I'm looking at July 8th or 9th. Make sure you unmute your mics when you get ready to answer that question.
Are you looking at the same time, 11 a.m.?
That's up for debate too, if there's a better time.
Good for me, Monday at 11.
Okay. Do we want to say July 8th at 11?
I can do that.
Okay.
This is Rick, works for me.
Wonderful. And if those of you who are fortunate enough to take the week off and go on vacation, God bless you. We'll have this video for you. But also, you know, if any of you know some of the other people who may have been on the list, you can let them know to check out the video. I will be sending an email to everyone, as I said, even the ones that were not on the call today. So July the 8th at 11 o'clock. Sounds good. Any other questions come up? Well, you can. I'm sorry, go ahead. Yes. Somebody had a question?
Yeah, this is Tom. I had a question for the group. More as far as the next steps for us in best supporting your summit is the invitations. You know, who in fact do we need to get invited? Are there any questions about, you know, who to invite? And I know Deb's already said, like I say, it's certainly not the elite, but it is about getting the people from the counties that are committed to solving this problem, that have a good understanding of the problem, but also have a pretty good understanding of the solution. And then the second part of it, of course, is, and I know we don't have a lot of time, but I don't want anyone to feel as though we didn't at least address the topics that would be covered, or anyone who has a strong opinion of what needs to take place. Even though I think that's where we should get into that detail in the next one.
And speaking of that, what people are thinking, we're going to go over, I'm going to provide you all with a list of people who have registered, give you their names in the interim before the next meeting, so you can see who has actually registered. And if you know somebody that you know was sent an invitation or hasn't yet, but we need to get them in the room, then you'll know to contact them. We're also going to talk about the table topics and see, narrow that focus down so we can make sure that we've got exactly addressing the needs of the community there. We're going to go over that planning page document again. We're going to talk about the need for facilitators and scribes at each one of the tables, which is critical. Something else to think about is anybody in your community that might be able, because this is an ongoing process, somebody that might be able to help sponsor and provide funds for the projects that are going to come out of this. I know Kay has mentioned a few, and we certainly appreciate her suggestions. We're going to look into all of those, but if any of you all know of some areas where we might be able to get the funding to help support some of these projects, that would be great. Any more questions?
This is Kay. I will add, when we first started talking, and I hope we can still do this, is work by sectors to begin with all the law enforcement together and the schools together and the health department together and the, whatever, to share ideas of what's working in their county, what's not working in the other county, to start off that way by sharing, because we know we've got strengths and weaknesses, in different counties.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can discuss that next time too. Exactly. And those will be topics at the table too. That's the whole point of bringing all the sectors together, is to really share with one another. And I noticed at the state summit we just had in April, another huge success. We've had 2 and 3 tables combined at one point. Like they're holding all their Zoom meetings together because they found that they had a common focus. But you can only seat like 8 people at a table comfortably. And it just evolved that they had the same thing or similar projects they were working on. So they've actually combined their Zoom calls, and they're finding strength in those numbers. So, that may come out of this as well too, or there may be, you may see one table divide into 2 because they've got 2 different directions they want to go in. It's all right. All of that is right. And we support all of that in getting to these solutions.
Hey, Sheriff Christopher, you've been a part of so many summits, and of course, obviously, you're a part of do you have any sense, knowing the summits as well as you do, how we could best serve over there, or what the summit would look like?
Well, I think as a team preparing for this summit, the biggest thing that we could do would be to invite and really, really try to get people that are on these lists, these leaders contact lists, to Deborah, because it is a great day to learn a lot of wonderful information that can help many, many people in our communities and our counties if we can just get everybody in that room like we have done before. And I feel that this is a great opportunity for the westernmost 7 counties to really come together and work on these problems.
Thank you.
Sheriff Christopher, this is Shelley. All of our systems work together in a lot of ways, and they're actually, because of the law changes around juvenile justice, every county now has a group with a lot of key stakeholders that are meeting, the schools, law enforcement, providers, others, to deal with the juvenile justice issues. I always think one of our biggest areas of concern is how do we get non-organizational or non-health and human service organizational people, because we know people getting jobs, having housing, having a secure income and a place to live is like a #1 goal. How would you think we could best get some of those folks there, since you're talking about people at the meeting? And how would we best reach out to those folks who aren't involved in the health and human service area?
Other than us picking up the phone and making some individual calls, Shelley, would be the only way that I would know to get some of these people to this meeting. Having a personal relationship with some of these people, I think would help just from an invitation standpoint. But you're exactly right. Sometimes it is a little bit difficult to get those that are not already invested in some way to these meetings. But I think that personal touch of not only sending an email, but maybe that phone call would help and get people to the summit in August.
I think what Sheriff Christopher says is absolutely critical. Because there are so many conferences, it's like, oh my God, one more conference. But if we can give you some idea of how this is different, and you can personally share that with them and let them know that they are very, very important to this process and we need them there, I think you speaking, Shelley, is going to make all the difference. And anything we can do to support you with that, let me know.
How about you, Ricky? What do you think?
Oh, I agree with the sheriff. It's that personal connection, that personal relationship. People want to be invited and they want to be a relationship process. Plus, they will need to know what benefit they bring. So you're kind of stroking their ego as well. You are important to this process. You bring this valuable resource to the table. We need you there. When you make that kind of invite and ask, people will come.
Very good point.
And I think each of us in our own counties can urge our leaders, that we need every sheriff, every police chief, every mayor, every school superintendent, principal, health department, clergy. We need all the leaders in all those sectors, and we need to make personal contact with them.
And let me emphasize this. All of you who are on the call today, please take time to register. And if you haven't gotten the invitation to the summit, just shoot me a quick email or text me and I'll make sure you get it immediately, or figure out why you haven't, because I've sent it out at least once, if not twice, to you, and I want to make sure you have that invitation where you can register. And just so we need the registration piece of it so we can have the numbers to count for space, for tables, for refreshments, because all of that's provided. This is all 100% free, thanks to our sponsor. So, just make sure you take a minute to register. Even if at last minute you have to back out, that's not a problem. If you think you can be there, go ahead and register and get your number counted, and then encourage. Again, don't share your invitation without letting us know or copying us. You can even copy me if so I know, and I can put that person on our invitation list so we can reconcile that at the end of the day and know who's coming. That is critical so we can make sure we take care of everyone properly. All right, we're 11:59. I cannot thank all of you enough. I cannot thank you enough. This is just incredible. All of you, your participation, taking the time to be here. Look for, as soon as Mariel can make this a YouTube, I'll be sending this out to all of you. I'm here. If you have any questions, call, email. Tom, Sheriff Christopher, Ricky, Shelley, Kay, everyone that spoke today, thank you so much.
Hey, Ricky, it's Mariel. Really quickly, I want to touch bases with you in the next couple of days, week, whatever works for your schedule, because I did a lot of the things that you learned through doing your work with NC State are incorporated into what we're doing, but I'd really like to just sort of touch bases with you and see what other lessons you've learned and what other wisdom you can pass on as we're doing it. So I'm going to send you an email if you don't mind and see if we can arrange a quick talk.
That sounds good. Maybe we can meet at Starbucks over coffee somewhere.
I would love it, but I think we're a little far apart.
Hey, I'm up for a road trip.
All right, talk to you soon.
All right.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you on July the 8th at 11 o'clock.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a great one.